Look at the lower pictures. Yeah, they look like Christian heritage. But the further up you go, looking up into the womb of Isis, because that's what the dome represents, you have the phallus of the Washington Monument, and you have the womb, and in the middle, you have the reflecting pool, which connects the two. When you're standing in the rotunda and you look up, the top part there is called the Frieze of American History. And it starts with Columbus and goes all the way around to the Wright brothers' first flight. And it depicts various scenes of our country's history. But you don't get much past Columbus when you see this. Montezuma and Cortez and the Aztec calendar stone that everybody's talking about, December 21st, 2012, it's all based on the Mayan calendar. There it is. What does this have to do with American history? Now, if you want to talk Americas and North, Central America and South America, okay. The problem is the rest of that painting is all about the United States of America. So why is this depicted there? Well, we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's keep looking up. The further up you look, the more occult it gets. You see 72 pentagrams there. Pentagrams in the occult are known as binding utilities. So there's 72. 72 is a high occult number. 13 is, 33 is, 72 is. There's a lot of numbers that the occult loves, 72 being one of them. So you got 72 pentagrams right here surrounding a painting called The Apotheosis of George Washington. Apotheosis means ascending into godhood, turning a man into a god. So there's George Washington in heaven depicted as a god in our Capitol building. Right? What's the commandment say? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Well, okay, if this is supposedly a Judeo-Christian founded country, and this is supposedly a scene in heaven, well, you might think you'd see something, like maybe Abraham, Moses, Jesus maybe, Gabriel, Michael, somebody? No, that's not who you see there. You see Neptune there. You see Ceres there. You see Vulcan there. You see Minerva counseling our founding fathers. You see Columbia/Freedom. And this is the best one. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, and our founding fathers at his feet taking notes. In our Christian founded country. Wow. I asked the tour guide, I said, when was this painting done? And she said it was finished in 1865. I thought, well, that date sounds familiar. I said, isn't that the year that Abraham Lincoln died? And she said, yeah, as a matter of fact, he was the first president to undergo the lying in state ceremony that every other president who has ever died in our country has since gone through. And what is that? Well, they bring their casket in under the womb of Isis and the apotheosis of George Washington, and they leave it there for a little while. That's nothing more than an Egyptian mystery school practice of ascending into apotheosis. And shortly after that, pictures and paintings and sculptures of Abraham Lincoln, similar to George Washington, was depicted, the apotheosis of Abraham Lincoln in our Christian-founded country. So I started asking questions, and that Aztec calendar stone thing really started to bug me, because this was last year, we're getting ready to go into 2012, which we're now in, and everybody, the History Channel, all these TV shows are talking about December 21st, 2012, and I started asking, what's going on? Why? And so I have to start looking at America's iconography. We've got the Aztec calendar stone depicted in the Capitol Frieze of American History, and I start looking at the peculiar imagery on the Great Seal of the United States. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Dr. Thomas Horn, in his book Apollyon Rising 2012, really opened my eyes to some of this stuff, some of this research regarding what's going on with that iconography there. It's on the back of your dollar bill. You got this pyramid. It has 72 stones arranged in 13 steps. At the base of the pyramid, it says 1776 in Roman numerals. And he points out that there is a unit of time that the Aztecs and the Mayans went by called a Katun, which is a 19.7-year period of time. And they said that the first Katun in a cycle of 13, you also have to remember that 13 is a big number for those who are in the occult, mainly because of Osiris. How many pieces were found? 13. Well, there's 13 of them shown here on the Great Pyramid, starting in 1756 and ending in 2012. That's interesting. Okay, so that's that. Now, the front of the Great Seal depicts the eagle. The problem is that this stuff is all designed by Masons, and Manly P. Hall is one of the most prolific writers of Freemasonry. He says basically, we got you all fooled. That's not really an eagle. He says that's a conventionalized, stylized phoenix. It's not an eagle. It's a conventionalized phoenix. Well, what's the phoenix? In Egyptian mythology, it's the Bennu. The Bennu is the soul bird of Osiris. that represents resurrection. What does a phoenix do? It dies and it is reborn out of its own ashes. It's the soul bird of Osiris. And what does it have in its beak? E pluribus unum. Nimrod. Many names, one individual. Out of many, one. The symbols have to harmonize with each other. And so I start flipping over my dollar bill, and I'm looking at the thing, and I'm like, okay, what's really going on here? And I was looking up, who had the hand in designing this. I told you one of the guys. The other guy is Charles Thompson. Had a hand in designing the Great Seal. He was one of the creators. He was a big fan of the Roman poet Virgil. And so we got some of these Latin phrases on our dollar bill there and on the Great Seal, like annuit coeptis. Well, that means favors undertakings. Well, that's an incomplete phrase. Who favors our undertakings, and what undertakings are we favoring? Well, you have to go look at his inspiration, Virgil. Virgil is credited for writing a number of books. And one of them, he says right here, from this work, it says, all-powerful Jupiter. Jupiter is the Roman name for Zeus. Scripture tells us that Zeus is Lucifer. Revelation chapter 2 talks about the seat of Satan that was in Pergamum. Well, the seat of Satan that was in Pergamum was the altar of Zeus. He's the prince and power of the air. I mean, he's the air god. It's Zeus. So Jupiter / Zeus / Lucifer, assent to my bold attempt. That's a Latin phrase right there that I have highlighted. That's where he derived annuit coeptis from that phrase right there in Virgil's work. Okay, so he's talking about Lucifer assenting or approving of my bold attempt in that case. Now, we have another Latin phrase, novus ordo seclorum, which means a new order of the ages. Well, where did he get that from? Well, he got that one from this writing of Virgil's where it says, Muses of Sicily, let me sing a little more grandly. Now the last age of the Cumaean prophecy begins. The great roll call of the centuries is born anew. That's the Latin phrase right there. He pulled that Latin phrase, and that's what morphed into novus ordo seclorum from that right there. But let's continue. It says, now virgin justice returns old Saturn's reign. Saturn is also associated in mythology with Lucifer. With a new breed of men sent down from heaven. Only favor the child who's born, pure Lucina, under whom the first race of iron shall end, and a golden age rise up throughout the world. Now your Apollo reigns. Who's Apollo? Nimrod. He will take on divine life. And this is interesting. He will see gods mingled with heroes. Is that talking about Daniel 2:43? Which says, and they, who's they? Shall mingle their seed with the seed of men? I'm just throwing it out there. And be seen by them and rule a peaceful world with his father's powers. Who's Apollo's father? Zeus. Lucifer. This is where the iconography on our Great Seal, and this is where it's coming from. I don't like carrying the dollar bill in my pocket anymore, to be honest with you. Because I believe it is a talisman. It is something infused with evil symbolic gestures on this thing. And a talisman, people, when the occult would create a talisman, they would pray over it and infuse it with mystical evil power. And then you send it out, and it goes into circulation. That's why we call it currency. We're passing this thing all over the world. The whole world becomes dependent on it. Odd. So, I began to look at all of the symbols in the iconography and reckoning that they all have to harmonize with each other, I decided to see if I could decipher this. And this is just my interpretation. This is not thus saith the Lord. This is thus thinketh Rob. Okay? So don't go out here taking this as gospel or anything. But this is what I believe the iconography is saying. And incidentally, the eagle is on the front of the Great Seal and the pyramid's on the back. So if you were to split it, you would think that the eagle should be on the left and the pyramid should be on the right, because we read left to right, right? Well, if you look at the dollar bill, they flipped it. The pyramid's on the left and the eagle's on the right. Interesting, the original design had the eagle on the left and the pyramid on the right, but Henry Wallace, the 33rd Vice President of the United States, and FDR, the 32nd President of the United States, both 32nd degree Masons, were heavily influenced by an occultist by the name of Nicholas Roerich, especially Henry Wallace. That actually got Wallace into some trouble, his association with Nicholas Roerich. And under his guidance, they decided to flip it. So reading left to right, the way it is right there, I believe it's saying Zeus/Satan favors our undertaking, that which we do under Osiris's watchful eye. Why do I say Osiris? It's because there's the all-seeing eye.